In this video, I'm asking the question, are gifted people with Asperger syndrome more prone to suicide? If yes, why?
Tracy Cross, who is an American professor of psychology and gifted education and the executive director of the Center for Gifted Education at William and Mary, said, "Our country, meaning America, does a terrific job of keeping statistics on suicide deaths, but giftedness is not a variable that is tracked."
Still, the data that has been collected offers hints as to what might make gifted students at risk for suicidal thoughts and tendencies.
Perfectionism, or self or socially inflicted pressure to perform well, is a common characteristic among gifted students and has been found to correlate with suicide ideation in studies of psychiatric and university samples. There are also biological links. For example, one study found a modest correlation between suicide ideation among gifted students and introversion.
Other reasons why intellectually gifted people may be more vulnerable to suicide are high sensitivity and existential dread.
The fact that gifted students are treated in school like they are the students who always have to make good grades can be a factor which contributes to suicide, as when these gifted adolescents get to college, many of them get admitted to highly ranked schools as superstars. They end up finding themselves in the bottom quartile. This can cause some of them to define themselves as failures.
In conclusion, although there's no conclusive evidence that the gifted are more prone to suicide than the non-gifted, suicide among the gifted is a serious issue. And some say gifted children are more prone to depression and suicide because of their heightened sensitivities, perfectionism, introversion, overachieving behaviors, mood disorders, hypersensitivity, existential concerns, and feeling like they don't fit in.
According to Martin Apistola, one thing we do know is that research indicates that suicide occurs among the gifted population. It's also apparent that suicide is occurring among the gifted at such a rate that it necessitates future research to have the ability to recognize risks and to deploy the most efficient and effective suicide prevention methods.
So now that we know too little about whether or not we gifted are at a higher risk of committing suicide, let's take a look at what's known about Asperger syndrome and suicide. Are people with Asperger syndrome at a higher risk of committing suicide? If yes, why?
The U.S. National Library of Medicine concludes that people with Asperger syndrome are 4.6% more prone to commit suicide than the general population. To a large extent, this is in accordance with the first large-scale clinical study of its kind, published in the Lancet Psychiatry. This study concluded that adults with Asperger's syndrome are 9 times more likely to experience suicidal thoughts than people from the general UK population. The research, led by Dr. Sarah Cassidy and Professor Simon Baron-Cohen from the Autism Research Center at Cambridge University and the Class Clinic in the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough NHS Foundation Trust, found that 2/3 of adults with Asperger's syndrome had contemplated suicide, and 35% had planned or attempted suicide during their lifetime. Suicidal thoughts and suicidal behavior were significantly more common in adults who had Asperger's syndrome and also a history of depression. Among adults with Asperger syndrome, those with depression were 4 times more likely to experience suicidal thoughts and twice as likely to plan or attempt suicide compared to individuals with Asperger syndrome but without a history of depression. A second risk factor for suicide plans or attempts was a higher level of autistic traits.
Their findings confirm anecdotal reports that people with Asperger syndrome have a significantly higher risk of suicide in comparison to other clinical groups, and that depression is a key risk factor in this.
According to Professor Baron Cohen, adults with Asperger syndrome often suffer with secondary depression due to social isolation, loneliness, social exclusion, lack of community services, underachievement, and unemployment.
So, what can we conclude from this? As I see it, we can conclude that people with Asperger syndrome are more prone to commit suicide as they often suffer from secondary depression. And a higher level of autistic traits is a second risk factor for suicide plans or attempts. Although too little is known about whether or not gifted people are more prone to commit suicide, I think it's fair to say that when you have Asperger syndrome and are gifted, on top of that, it doesn't make life easier as you might struggle with heightened sensitivities, perfectionism and introversion, etc., on top of all the other things you might struggle with because you have Asperger's. This information came from these websites. You'll find these links below this video. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel and watch this series from the start. Next Friday, I'll be back with more Swedish pronunciation training. Till then, I only want to say 3 things. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and bye for now.